Hey everyone, welcome to the STB podcast. I'm your host, DDA Occident, founder of the Secure the Bag Financial Literacy Program. The mission of Secure the Bag is to empower athletes to become elite stewards of their finances by aligning their actions with their intentions. This podcast looks to change the narrative around athletes and money through real conversations. Too often, athletes are given the playbook for on-field success, but not off the field. In their own words, you'll hear current and professional athletes talk about their own personal money journeys. Our guests aim to educate others about their mistakes and inspire them with their successes. These are conversations you aren't going to want to miss. Secure the Bag, secure your future. Secure the Bag content is intended for collegiate athletes. Secure the Bag does not provide financial services, financial planning, investment, tax, legal, or sports agent advice or services. Here's the first part of a two-part conversation I had with our first guest, former NFL cornerback, Antonio Cromartie. In the first part of our conversation, Antonio and I discussed what it was like growing up in Tallahassee, his high school days, and of course, his illustrious career at Florida State. Welcome to the very first Secure the Bag podcast. Today, I have a very special guest, former Florida State star, first-round draft pick of the San Diego Chargers in 2006, four-time Pro Bowler, first-team All-Pro in 2007, owns the record for the longest play in NFL history for a 109-yard return. He currently lives in Texas with his beautiful wife, Tarika, and their 6 children. I'm happy to welcome Antonio Cromartie to the podcast. What's up, man? How you doing?
What's going on, man? That's a hey, yeah. You had to take your time on that one.
I did, man. So how you been, man? First off, I wanted to have you on as the first guest because, and for those who don't know, Antonio helped me a few months ago with a financial literacy program that we do with the Florida State football players, and they raved about him. They loved having him on, and really he was the first person I wanted to do when we did a kind of a long form podcast to have these discussions, because he had some incredible things to say, and I think you guys will really enjoy it. So welcome, Antonio, man, and how you been the last couple of months since we talked?
Man, been good, man. Just relaxing, to be honest with you, trying to think of the next plan for myself. And trying to figure out things for me right now. I mean, I've been retired for going on 3 years in March.
Yeah.
So, just trying to figure out that next niche. I mean, I know what I want to do, but it's just the point of just getting into it and just starting going.
Okay, awesome. Well, I know we'll get into that. But one of the reasons that I started this was to kind of normalize conversations with athletes and people about money and life and a lot of the decisions, right? It's kind of like we've made this agreement where we just accept this reality where athletes get plucked from these, bad situations, do everything they can do to make it, get to college, and if they're lucky enough, get to the pros. And if they're really lucky, like you, have a great career in the pros, spend a lot of money, and a lot of them wind up broke or back where it all started, right? And one of those things for me, I just feel like that's unacceptable. And it's time we kind of normalize these conversations about financial literacy and just making good decisions. So let's start at the beginning, man. So take me back. What was it like growing up as a kid in Tallahassee? What was your life like growing up with your mom? And tell me a little bit about those days.
It was good, man. I mean, anything come from a single parent home. I mean, be honest with you. I mean, just being real. I mean, me and my dad, we have somewhat of a relationship now, but I mean, it wasn't nothing like it was too big. Like we had a great relationship together. But just growing up with my siblings and everyone else, and I mean, it had its struggles just for the simple fact for me, I went to 11 different schools from elementary to high school. So I think I even went to 11 or 12 different schools during that time, just moving around, not having a stable household at that point in time. I think my most stable household was in college, just being in the dorms and stuff. So it just for me, it was just growing up with my mom, my siblings, my grandmother that was always there, my uncles that was always there. So it was just, for me, it was just, I had a good time. I mean, I didn't want for nothing. So it was always, I always got what I needed.
Yeah. So it was kind of what you knew, right? So you didn't
Yeah,
know anything different.
it was nothing. It was like, for me, it was like nothing. Like, you when you look back on it, you start to say, man, it was pretty hard, basically, because my mom was working 2 or 3 jobs, and I was basically the man of the house.
Yeah.
Cooking at the age of 9, 10 years old, learning how to cook. So it's just like, for me, it was like I had to grow up faster than I actually wanted to.
So yeah, tell me, how many siblings did you have growing up? How many
I
siblings?
I mean, in my mom's house, I had my 2 sisters and my brother.
Okay.
So it was the 4 of us and my mom, moving so many dang on times. He's either that or staying with my grandmother at some point in time too. So it was just us just trying to make it happen. My mom tried to do the best that she could.
So you talked a little bit about looking back. Now it was hard. Tell me, what was your impression about, like, growing up? When you were living that life, what were your thoughts about money, the future? Like, when you're 9, 10 years old and you're learning to cook, what was your understanding about it, and what was your thoughts at that time?
Honestly, I just thought it was the norm. Be honest with you, I thought it was the norm for me. I didn't really think about money until, realistically, until I probably got to high school. What I really wanted to do. I mean, I always wanted to be a football player. That's something I always grew up and wanted to be. But it was just like, understanding the money concept part of it, or started really thinking about money, about what I want to spend money on, what I want to do this on. If I make it to this, what I want to do with this. Didn't really hit me until probably sophomore, junior year of high school.
Okay. All right. And then, so sophomore, junior year of high school, you're probably blown up on the recruiting rankings. What was that transition from when you were in high school, right? And you're obviously probably realizing you're pretty good at this and you're going to get an opportunity to play at college. What was the thinking coming from where you came from to, all right, I have the opportunity to actually go to college and go to college, period, right? But go to college, play ball, and then go to the pros. Take me through, like, 15-year-old, 16-year-old Antonio's mind.
15-year-old, 16-year-old Antonio was just playing football, be honest with you. At that point in time, I was staying with my godmother, who would end up taking me in, because I just didn't want to go to the private school that I was going to. My mom was already struggling at that point in time. So I made a decision that I wanted to stay with my godmother, to try to ease up some of the burden dealing with me and my teenage time, my teenage hormones during that time, to ease up and went to go stay with my godmother for my last 2 years of high school. So I went to private school. My first year and a half of high school. I went to North Florida Christian. That's where I went to school at over there. Me and Ernie Sims and those guys went to school together. I actually stayed with Ernie my first year, my first couple months of going to North Florida Christian.
Oh, really?
Yeah, just because of the commute. And it was just a struggle for my mom to try to get up and take me to school, take my sister to school, then take my brothers and my little brother and little sister to school. So it was just like, how can I, ninth grade, 10th grade, figure out a way to make things easier. So I just started making decisions like, hey, if I ask somebody, can I stay with them? Would that be okay? And Ernest Sims, and his mom, and dad took me in for like the first 6 months of my high school career over at North Florida Christian. Just going through that, the struggles was just like, man, I don't want to deal with this. Like, when I make it, I don't want to have to feel like I gotta be living with anybody and everybody else. Like, I want to make sure I have my own stuff. I want to make sure my mom have her own stuff, and we go from there. Just having that train of thought, that was my process of, I don't want to live in the hood no more.
Yeah, that was so. Around that time is when you're kind of figuring out, all right, this isn't necessarily how it has to be.
Yeah, it don't have to be like this. I don't have to move from this house to this house, or just put myself in a position to always be successful. That's what I always try to put myself in, and um, ended up working out. My godmother took great care of me during that time. My mom, our mom was always in my life, but it was just like having that opportunity to stay with my godmother and my godbrother. It was just something different. It was a different lifestyle from that standpoint, and got to see some things that was better. And that's what I wanted. I wanted something better for myself. I wanted better for whoever was around me.
Yeah.
My biggest thing, like anybody will tell you that with the high school with me, I never tried to put myself in a position that I always only thought about myself. It was always whoever my friends were, whoever at that point in time was like, I got to try to bring them along too, because if I don't, we all gonna be stuck in this same position. I mean,
Yeah.
some of us made better decisions, some of us didn't, but it was always never about me. It was a bigger picture. Now, for me, it was always trying to bring the guys around me that I felt like had the opportunity to go play college football for free, or have a full scholarship offer to better themselves that way.
So you felt the need, and I'm just thinking about the tremendous burden, right? You're a kid, and this is grown man stuff. Feeling the responsibility as a 8th grader or 9th grader to say, "Hey, mom, can I go stay here because I see how hard it is for you," right? To have to do those things, and then to feel like I got to pull my friends along who have opportunities and make sure that they stay on the right path. So when you were starting to go through the recruiting process and all that, tell me what was that like when you're having tremendous success in high school, and I know how good you and Ernie, how good you guys were. So that had to be a fun time. Tell me a little bit about recruiting and what went into that process for you.
Recruiting was fun, man, because it was a chance. Like me, I've never been out of Tallahassee. Besides, probably going down to Orlando or I've never been out of Florida.
Yeah.
So like the whole recruiting process for me was just fun because I got on private jets. As an 18-year-old kid, I'm flying private to this place. I'm flying private to this place, and like you go through the whole recruiting process, and people like they catering to you to the point of trying to make sure they do everything they can at that point in time to get you to come to their school and give you the better options of why their school is better than any other school. There's me going through the process, it was just like, man, this school here talking to me real good, this school here talking, but like it was just, I knew I could tell who was going to be real, who wasn't. I think that's something I figured out at a very young age. Like, yeah, you telling me this stuff now, but I know when I get here, it's going to be totally different. No, it's no, and they go to no Crow, it's not going to be I'm trying to tell you, it's going to be the same exact way, but it's just like, you know how the rules go. Like, man, they tell you what you want to hear. And then by the time you get there, it's something totally different.
It's changed.
So, I can separate the bull crap from everything else. So it was like, for me, it was just trying to pick and choose what was the best decision for me. And honestly, this is what a lot of people don't understand. I originally wasn't going to Florida State.
All right. Yeah. So
people fail to understand. I wasn't going to Florida State. That wasn't my first choice.
Tell me about that. What was your first choice?
My first choice was either going to be Michigan or Miami.
Michigan or Miami.
Those are my first choice, because honestly, like during that process, there's a lot of stuff that was going on with at Florida State at that point in time with Adrian McPherson. I've been to a couple of games when they got blown out.
Mm-hmm.
And I just felt like, yes, this is my dream school, but this is not somewhere I want to be. Not the way like the whole situation handled with Adrian McPherson and how things went from that standpoint. I was just like, this is not where I want to be.
Yeah.
And I would rather go somewhere. If I'm far away from home, I just be far away from home. But how the whole recruiting process worked, it was freaking crazy. So 2 weeks before I go visit Miami, they dropped me from their recruiting list.
Miami did?
Miami did. 2 weeks before I went on my visit down there, they said they was going to drop me from their recruiting list. Matter of fact, I still remember the conversation I had on the phone with Coach Solinger and Coach Johnson.
What'd they say?
it was just like, hey, Coach Solomon, you got our phone. He was like, hey, Crow, I know you're supposed to be coming down in 2 weeks, but man, I got some bad news. And him and Coach Johnson on the phone, Coach Solomon and Coach Johnson on the phone. It's like, hey, they decided to drop you from your recruiting list. I was like, what? He was like, yeah, I don't. He was like, honestly, he said, Crow, this is out of my pay grade, out of my pay raise. I don't know what's going on, but they decided to drop you from the recruiting list. I said, cool. I'll see y'all sometime soon. But when I play y'all, just know I got a grudge. And they started smiling on the phone. And I always had a great relationship. So even when I went to Florida State, I always talked to them every time we played. Just because, they were straight up and honest. They didn't shoot no bull crap. They just came to me and just told me honestly, like, look, they dropped me from the recruiting list. This is something that, out of my pay grade, out of my pay raise, I have no issues with. And so they dropped me from the recruiting list. My in-home visit with Michigan, it never showed up.
Get out of here.
I had a visit with them at 7:00 that night because it was a school night, and we all met at my grandmother's house. The airport where my grandmother stays is like 10 to 15 minutes away from the airport. So I get them directions, everything on that time. Ain't no true navigation going on.
Yeah.
I get them precise. I get them, hey, we right here. If you're on Capitol Circle, you can make a left here and come down this road here. Once you get here, make another right here on Roberts Avenue, and you good to go. Never showed up. Oh, I'm sorry. They did show up. They showed up at like 9:30. And my mom was like, hell no.
Was it Lloyd Carr?
Lloyd Carr, and what's crazy is he was the defensive coordinator for Seattle at one point in time. I forgot his name. I can't even think of his name. He was actually defensive coordinator at some point in time for the Detroit Lions. I can't even think of his name, but he was my recruiter in Tallahassee, and they was bringing Lloyd Carr in, and I can just remember I was like, Mom, I'm committing tonight. Like, I'm telling them I'm going.
Oh my gosh.
I'm ready to go. And this is a school I want to go to, especially the whole thing. I was a big Charles Wilson fan at that point in time too. And the way Garner and Gold was going, I was like, man, I don't want to go there. I was like, I'm gonna go to Michigan. Like, I'm gonna wear number 2. I'm gonna get everything I got, what I'm saying, from Michigan.
Yeah.
Like, Ma, I know you ain't gonna be able to come up to the games, but hey, you can watch me on TV. I'll come home for a break when I get a chance. I was gone.
Oh man.
They didn't show up. And I'm sorry, they showed up, and then my mom was pissed. We did the house visit still, but my mom was like, nah, you can't come. You can't go. She's like, if they can do this, and they got here at 5:30 in the afternoon, they couldn't drive 15 minutes to your house and get here on time, that's a problem.
That's crazy.
That's how it came to be. All right, I'm going to Florida State. That's my dream school. Talking to my grandmother. And I think 2 days after that, I think Coach Bowden, Jeff Bowden, and Coach Andrews all came to my grandmother's house and sat in. And their whole thing was, my grandmother is heavily in her Bible and heavily with, with the Lord, with everything. And her whole thing was when Coach Bowden started talking about the Christianity and she was already sold. Like, you need this in your life. You need a man of God that's in your life that can put you where you need to be from a spiritual standpoint. And, my mom was always just like, look, this has always been your dream school since you was, 4 or 5 years old. Why not go to your dream school that's in here? You get your family that get to see you and see you play. And I'm like, man, I don't really want to be here though.
That's crazy. That's crazy.
I don't want to be here. I want to be out. I want to grow on my own.
You wanted to.
Yeah. So it was like, man, I don't really want to be here. And what's crazy is I was actually on my way to Gainesville too.
Oh,
yeah, man. They stay. Hey, the Zucker almost got me.
He could recruit. He couldn't coach, but he could recruit.
The Zucker almost got me. And the reason was my two cousins went there already. I had Robert Cromartie, who played corner there.
Yeah.
And my cousin, who I played high school ball with, Gavin Dickey, he was already there playing baseball and football. So he was like, man, yeah, come here, like this and that. And I was like, man, if you're gonna be the quarterback, I'll come. I'll play receiver and I'll try to play DB. So it was just like I was there. I was trying to do everything in my power not to go to Florida State.
That's crazy. I'm so offended right now, but
and that was my dream. But it was just so much animosity that I had towards Florida State with how they handled the situation with Adrian McPherson.
With AD.
Yeah. So it was just like so much that was going on. And not only that, this is what people failed to realize. Florida State really didn't start recruiting me until 3 weeks before signing day.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I mean, they would drop in and talk and have a conversation at Lincoln High School, but they wasn't like heavily recruiting me. And people don't understand that. They wasn't heavily recruiting me. And the same thing was going on with Ernie too. So people for the real, Ernie, if Bo Jackson would have gave Ernie number 34 at Auburn, he was gone.
Oh.
I'm
shocked right now. I didn't know that.
I'm trying to tell you, if Bo Jackson would have said that, yes, Ernie Sims, you're gonna wear number 34 as a running back at Auburn, Ernie was gone.
That's crazy.
So
that's news. I think that's news for a lot of people.
Like people don't understand. Like Florida State they was recruiting us, but they wasn't going hard after us because they felt like, well, we were inner city kids. They can come get us anytime.
So I was going to ask if you felt like,
it shouldn't be that way. Like you should be wanted by your hometown school, especially one you had the number one recruit in the country, the number one running back, the number one linebacker in Ernie Sims. I was the number 6 corner and like the number 4 or 5 receiver in the country. So I was like, and you don't recruit us? Like you don't recruit us to the last minute? Like that just says
that's wild. That's wild because
I wasn't going.
That's nuts, man.
I didn't make a decision honestly because I still told my mom I still wanted to go to Michigan. I didn't make a decision until that night that I committed on ESPN. I wasn't going. I was torn between Michigan and staying home, and I just weighed my options. And went from there. And
that's crazy.
The rest went out the window.
That's crazy. What's funny is my younger brother, he's a massive Michigan fan. So I know when he hears this, he's gonna be so upset.
Listen, I went up there, like you gotta think, I went up there on my official visit. It was snowing. Like I'm a Florida boy. And you see I'm like, man, this is love. Like I love all this. Went to a basketball game, man, and the whole crowd was chanting my name. Like I'm just like, man, this is it. Like, but you can't tell me nothing. Tallahassee can't tell me nothing. I've been here my whole life. There's nothing that I have not seen in Tallahassee that I haven't already seen. So you can't show me nothing that I already seen. You can't take me nowhere where I haven't already been because I'm from here. So it's just like when I went up there, man, it was nothing but love.
So if they had showed up on time,
I was gone.
You're a legend in Ann Arbor right now.
I'm in a big house.
That's crazy.
I'm dead serious. I was not going to Florida State at all. I told my mom I'm going to Michigan. Just like that, I say I'm committing tonight and I'm going to Michigan. Like I'm done with the recruiting process. When they come here, I'm committing that night. Because I was gonna stop all visits. I was gonna stop everything. After that in-house visit, and I was gonna be done.
Wow. And that's such a metaphor for life when we talk about small decisions and small things that go one way or another, right? And how there are things that happen that you can't take back, right? Like they can't get back that 2 hours that they left your family waiting, and you chart a different course. So before we get to Florida State, you have one crazy, I always love hearing recruiting stories. Do you have one crazy recruiting story or visit story?
I'm trying to think. Where did I go? I went to Auburn, Alabama. I went to Auburn, Alabama, UF, and Michigan was good. The craziest one was um honestly probably Auburn, because I think I went. It was like me, Ernie, um, what's the kid? Brian Burns' brother, Stanley McGlover.
Oh yeah.
We all played on the same team in the Florida versus California game. So it was like, okay, cool. We all gonna go on the same visit together. So it was like all of us there together, and I got a chance to see like they bowl practice and all that stuff. But just being around the guys and the history that Coach Tommy Tuberville knew, like my uncle played there. So like he was like giving me stats of my uncle, showing me records of my uncle Tim Cromartie being there in the weight room and things like that. So like just to know like the history like of me just going there and seeing like my family there and being able to them talk about him and former players that played with him and tell them how telling me how good he was from that standpoint. That was for me was wow. And just being around the guys there from Cadillac to Ronnie Brown to Brandon.
They were hot. They were hot back then.
A lot of people fail to realize Brandon Jacobs was there too. Like I was there when they had Brandon Jacobs, Ronnie Brown, Cadillac Williams all in the backfield. So just to see them practice and see a 6'5" running back, man, you looking like, man, what in the world is going on? This is what I gotta tackle in practice. And then and then all of a sudden you see Greg Jones, you're like, man, hold on.
Yeah.
He's 6'1", 6'2", 250.
Yeah.
So, but it was just like having that atmosphere of being able to see everybody practice.
That's awesome.
And just go through that whole spiel with them. I mean, I didn't really have nothing. I was more business-like, trying to figure out one was educational wise, what would I have a better chance at if things don't work out in football, how would my education get me where I needed to be from that standpoint? Like Michigan to me was had by far the better record than anybody with education wise and giving.
Oh yeah. It's great school.
But it was just like, if I go here and they doing the same thing they did to me, with me not coming to my house 2.5 hours late, then what's the possibility of me really want to stand here and transfer?
Yeah.
I had to weigh in a lot of things from that standpoint.
And that's crazy. That's a crazy story. So you begrudgingly go to Florida State, right? And you get there, and so tell me about that process. So you accept it, you get to Florida State, you get on campus, you got Bobby Bowden, Mickey Andrews, and then tell me a little bit about financially, because you had your first child at the end of in high school, right?
No, I had my first child at the end of freshman year. Okay, so you're on. Well, actually going into, I want to say going into, was it freshman year? Yeah, it was going into my after my freshman year.
Okay.
My sophomore year.
So tell me a little bit about, you get to campus and what's that like? What's the transition? Even though you're still in Tallahassee, what was that transition like?
Transition was easy because I was always up at Florida State doing one-on-ones, doing stuff like that in high school. So the transition was easy. But like, you don't meet everybody. So like, what's crazy is, I don't know if anybody remembers, like the football stadium wasn't done yet when I got there. Like the weight room part wasn't done yet. It was in like the old basketball gym over there by the track and all that stuff. So we was walking from over there, from the field to there, to go lift weights and everything else. So I remember my first time in the weight room. So I think the first person I run into is God rest his soul, Bobby Meeks. That's the first person I run into. Him and who else did I run into? I forgot who it was, but I remember Bobby Meeks particularly because he was like, man, it's like, who you? I was like, man, I'm an incoming freshman. It was like, man, what position you play? I was like, man, I play corner. He was like, man, oh hell nah, you don't play no damn corner. Ain't no way you play corner. Right? You 6'2", at least 205 pounds. You playing outside linebacker, you playing something. I was like, no, I'll come in and play corner. So I mean, like my first experience, like a lot of people thought I played linebacker just because of my size. Like just people that hasn't that haven't met me from doing one-on-ones or anything else. So like just that whole experience of just being around a locker room with guys that you sit there and watch play on Saturdays in the school that you love so much growing up. It was kind of crazy.
Yeah, I remember, at that time, we're close to the same age. I'm a few years older than you, a couple years older. And I remember reading, like, that's when I got into recruiting and I was on the message boards. And I remember reading, like, Mickey doesn't start freshman but Crow, like, I remember just reading you were going to be that deal.
Listen, when I got to Florida State and Mickey told me, I said, you're going to have a chance to compete. I was raw. Like, I was pure raw. Like, it was nothing but if you throw the ball in the air, I'll go get it. Like, that was it. Didn't really understand the whole defensive back position because I was truly a receiver. Like people realize I came into Florida State as a receiver and switched to DB.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just like for me, it was like just getting that lesson of learning the game and understanding the game and trying to be a technician, trying to be a perfectionist because my thing was when I got to Florida State, you had the likes of Terrell Buckley, you had the likes of Samari Rowe, Deion Sanders, Clifton Abraham, Corey Fuller, and those guys that was in the back end that Mickey Andrews coached. And so, I grew up watching them all day, every day. So for me, it was just like, okay, how can I be better than them and also come in and be a starter as a true freshman?
Yeah.
Well, I learned quickly I wasn't going to be a starter as a true freshman. The biggest thing I learned was I learned a lot from Kirby Smart. Because Kirby was the GA here when I came in as a freshman. And I learned a lot just from him. And just like, look, you got to take advantage of every opportunity that you get, even when we throw you into late games.
Yeah.
Like, show those flashes, show the things that you've been showing in practice and do it. I remember the first game we played against Duke. We beat the mess out of Duke.
Yeah.
And my fourth or fifth playing the game, I get a pick six. It was just like, those. Yeah. And I remember Kirby coming to me. He's like, those are the opportunities I'm talking about. Show them, even on special teams, whatever we have you doing, just show them that you are ready to play football. And that's something that Mickey was always talking. He was a technician. Like he was always like, well, one thing he always did was compare me to Deion Sanders, and I hated it.
What would he say? How would he compare you?
It was just like, y'all, he always compare like, hey, Deion came in, he started as a freshman. Can you do this? You do this as a freshman. It's like, yeah, I can do all that if you give me the right opportunity. I was a hothead too, though, because I was just like, I always felt like for me, I never really got the true opportunity to really like be myself in playing this game. I always felt like I always had to fight for something. Like, now I didn't never want anything given to me, but it was just like everything that I had to do, I had to literally fight every inch in college. Like, people fail to realize I only started one game at Florida State.
Yeah, I know.
Like, people don't understand that. Like, how do you win your starting position during the spring and then lose it during the summer when you don't have any football to somebody that you was 10 times better than?
So was it a situation where, looking back, you were just so gifted, so talented, they had to do this, they felt the need to kind of push you in that way?
I don't know. I mean, when you look back on it, I can say that, but I don't know. Because I felt like I grew a lot from my freshman year going into my first spring, just from a standpoint of understanding the game and playing the game the way that Mickey Andrews wanted me to play it.
Yeah.
So I felt like I grew a lot from that standpoint, but like I don't know. I mean, I couldn't tell you because I got a lot of, man, it was plenty of time I told Mickey Andrews I'm transferring or I'm switching to receivers, and it's been plenty of time I told him I'm switching to receiver just to if I can beat the hell out of the DBs that you got in front of me. Like I've told him that numerous times.
Yeah.
That I would switch to receiver and hit on Jeff Bell. Yeah, come on, Crow, come on to the
Yeah, please.
come over to the dark side, man. We would love to have you over here. They ain't gonna treat you right on the defensive side, man. We're gonna treat you right over here.
Yeah.
And it was just Mickey Andrews challenged me mentally. Like I think like anything that for me that went on later on in my career in the NFL, like Mickey Andrews challenged me mentally from a standpoint of you will be challenged in so many ways mentally that you will be prepared to just walk through anything.
That's awesome.
And that was something that I took from Mickey going into my NFL career. It was just like anything mental, like you have a short-term memory, anything that bothers you outside of football, and you got to block all that stuff out to be the player that you need to be on the field.
Yeah.
He just taught me so much mentally and from a standpoint of just putting things into perspective of what you're playing for, basically.
Yeah.
What are you playing for? Why are you playing this game? Because you got to have something to play for. Because you can't just be out here. It can be for the love of the game. It can be for the fame. It can be for whatever it is. But you got to have something to play for. And that's what he challenged me mentally at. And I learned so much from him the year that I tore my ACL.
Mm-hmm.
Just from a standpoint of the game. Crow, we're going to be in the meeting rooms at 5:45. This before they had these old 20-hour rules and
yeah.
Right, all that stuff.
Meet me there at sunup.
Meet me, and he just broke the game down to me. Taught me how to watch film, taught me how to look at things in a different way from a defensive coordinator standpoint of why certain calls may be called and things like that. And at that point in time, my sophomore year, we had Kirby left and James Cozy came back.
Yeah.
GA. So like having like Coach Cozy and Mickey Andrews and those guys in that office and I mean say in that meeting room, it came easy to me. It started to come simple. Like the game started to slow down, especially my ACL year. It started to slow down. And it was just something like for me, it was just, I made a decision because one, it was stuff going on with my mom at home. When I started to go to the club for the draft, I was pissed off with Florida State at that point in time too.
Hold that thought. I want to come back to that because I want to talk about that year, and I remember that vividly because it was when that team had very high hopes. But I want to back up. So between your freshman and sophomore year, you have a child. You're coming into your own at FSU. How did that kind of change your perspective on life or affect, if at all, anything going forward for you from a collegiate perspective? Now that you're in college, you seem to be on this path, and then you have a child.
It didn't affect me at all. And I knew what I was already planning for something.
Mm-hmm.
It was selfish, but I was already planning for something. So my son being born didn't change the way I went about anything, like the way I prepared, the way I did anything. The biggest thing was just me trying to spend time with him during that time. So like my perspective of how I looked at things and how I wanted to go about it, I still had a plan of being gone after 3 football seasons. That was always been my plan.
Yeah, 3 and out.
3 and out, 3 football seasons and I'm gone. So that's always been my plan. That was playing since I was, sophomore, junior in high school. I'm just like, I'm 3 and I'm done. Be a first round draft pick. That was my thing. So for me, it was just like understanding the importance of being a dad.
Yeah.
Especially when, like for me, didn't have my dad around much. I mean, he was around, but no, I ain't seen him much. So for me, it was just like the importance of being a dad, trying to put that into perspective of, okay, how can I see my kid and do school? I'm done at 8:30, 9 o'clock at night with the hall and stuff like that. So how can I put the time in to do the things I need to do.
Yeah, people don't realize how full that day is, man. And
it's different because now the rules are totally different. Like we had that 40-hour rule during the week. Yeah, I think we had practice we had a 30-minute meeting at 3 from 3 to 3:30.
Mm-hmm.
Go down, you had to be dressed in that meeting. After that meeting, we was going to the football field. We was done at 5:45, 6 o'clock. You had study hall. If you had study hall with your tutors up there, that was going from like 6:45 to by basically 8:30.
Yeah.
And you was done. So I'm getting home, 9 o'clock. I'm like, man, I'm beat. Like I can't do nothing.
Yeah, it's a full-time job, especially back then. It
was a big time full-time job that if you ain't juggle the stuff the right way, you was gonna get lost.
Yeah. What time would you date your day? So your day would start 8:39. What time would it start?
My day would probably start. My first class probably about 9:15.
Okay.
9:15, 9:30. And most time we probably have 1 or 2 classes that day. And I mean, I'm done around about 12:30, 1 o'clock. After that, I'm going to go get some lunch, and I'm going.
And then
go do it. Yeah, I'm getting ready for football.
Yeah,
trying to get as much stuff as I can. I'm gonna go lift weights before practice or whatever I gotta try to do during that time and do that. And then February was mat drills.
Yeah.
Lucky for me, I really didn't do mat drills because I ran track. So
that's yeah. So you had, you had to get out of.
I got away from the mat drills, man. So, but
then we go to. All right, so sophomore, so before your junior year, so take us through the ACL. So that's your money year, right? You're coming back. The team's that's 06 that season.
Well, it would have been the year that I tore my ACL was 05. I tore July 05. So that's the year we played Penn State in the Orange Bowl.
Yeah.
But the field goal game.
Yeah. So that year, that team's got, really high hopes, and they brought Patrick in. So tell me a little bit, what was that like when you tore your ACL, and tell me a little bit about that process and the decision to leave.
The year I tore my ACL, man, what's crazy is the way I tore it. I was actually getting ready to leave, and some high school kid, we cover everybody back then. Now they don't want to cover nobody, but like he had asked me could I, work with him and cover him on his last route. Like I'm literally about to get ready to leave. I'm getting ready to take my shoes off, and he hits me up. So he runs a deep ball. I jump in the air, come down, hyperextend my knee, and tear my ACL. I mean, the whole training staff and everybody's out there because it was during the Florida State camp. They had the other 2 fields, and we was on the top field doing one-on-ones and stuff. And man, tore my ACL. I knew it was torn. Like I told them from the beginning, I was like, I tore my ACL. And I was like, nah, Crow, don't say that, this and that. We're gonna get it checked out. Next day, tear my ACL. Coach Andrews come down there crying, talking to me.
Crying.
Man, so like during that time, I had set a goal, to be honest with you. Like I had tore my ACL on the 13th. I had surgery on the 21st. I was back practicing in October with a knee brace on. So I had to go. We was just talking about this on Twitter today with some of the guys. I can remember telling guys on the team, like, I'm coming back to play in the Clemson game when we played Clemson in Clemson.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm out there doing all my drills and doing warm-up. I mean, I knew I wasn't going to play. They wasn't going to let me play. But I'm out there doing my drills and all that stuff. And the people from Clemson looking at me like, how in the hell this dude just tore his ACL? And he out here doing all this stuff. And I didn't get to play that game. So my goal was, okay, if I don't play in this game, I want to play in the ACC championship game.
Yeah.
Like I had a goal every single time. Like I wanted to move forward with everything. I wanted to play in the ACC championship game.
That was Virginia Tech.
Against Virginia Tech, the first inaugural year of the ACC championship game.
That game was yesterday. I saw the memory popped up.
Yeah,
it was actually yesterday.
I was pissed because they didn't allow me to go to the game.
Oh, okay.
They didn't even allow me to go to the game. So when they did that, I mean, I was at home pissed. Like pissed. Like I do all this work to come back and do certain things. You guys can't even let me come down there for a 2-hour bus ride. A 2-hour bus ride. And
oh, yeah, because it was in Jacksonville.
It was in Jacksonville. So you're going to tell me I cannot come to a game that I've bust my behind to actually just even practice, do whatever. I practiced this whole entire week. And then you tell me on Thursday, hey, Crow, we're not taking you down to the game. What? Man, I'm
give you a reason?
They have no. Okay, I'm sorry. There's their reason. Their reason was that with the first being the first year of the inauguration of the ACC championship, inaugural year of the ACC championship, that they couldn't bring as many players as they could down.
Yeah.
That was their excuse.
That's not gonna
work. And I was like, oh, okay then. So, I'm at home, sitting at my best friend's house, and I'm like, all right, cool. They want to play like this. I say, I'm leaving. I made a decision. I was like, okay, I think I'm gonna leave, because I felt like I wasn't important to you. Like at the end of the day, like I do all this stuff during this time, come back and I'm practicing, I'm doing this. Even if I'm not playing, at least let me be there to be there with my teammates. Like I'm not just some walk on or a guy or a freshman that you just brought in. Like I was one of the core guys that was helping the younger guys like Tony Carter and all these guys make sure they get ready to where they are. So I was like, all right, cool. So
why you left?
So that was part of it. That was a little part of it. So, we get down to the Orange Bowl. We're practicing. Like, I'm beating the hell out of the receivers, Willie Reed and everybody.
Yeah.
I'm in full pass. I'm like, man, I'm playing in the bowl game. I don't care what they say.
You're full go, yeah.
So they sit me down and Crow, I know you look good, this and that, but we don't want to take a chance. I was like, this is my career. This is not your career. So if I want to play, let me play. I say, no, we're not gonna let you play. I say, so while I'm down here practicing, y'all not gonna let me. I could have been back at home in Tallahassee. I was like, y'all could have left me like y'all did in the for the ACC championship game. I ain't need to be down here. But it was like, nah, it'd be good for you to be down here because it was good for you to be down because actually, we saw it was scouts that was here. They actually got to see you move around a little bit. And I remember having this conversation with Coach Bowden, and I had got a phone call the night before about my mom. She had went into the doctor. They found some lumps in her breast or whatever, and they didn't know if it was cancer or not. So they had to do the biopsy and stuff. But the biopsy wasn't until basically to after the Western Name game, the way they had to schedule it. Because I found out when I got down there. So they did the biopsy like 2 or 3 days after the game. So we did that, and I talked to Coach Bowden, I talked to Coach Andrew, and I was like, look, I don't know what's going on with my mom. They found some lumps in her breast. It could be breast cancer. I don't know what it is, but like the decision I'm gonna make, it's a hard one, but I got to make it. I'm not coming back. And I talked to Coach Bowden at practice. He pulled me out of practice to have this conversation. He was like, are you sure that's what you want to do? I was like, yeah. He's like, and he threw football out the window. He was like, whatever, we can do, to help, whatever it may be, like, let us know. Like, we want to be there for you because, you're from Tallahassee, you're here with us, and we want to make sure that, your mom is taken care of no matter what. If we had to send her to some of the best doctors, if that's what it is. And then, we'll try to do whatever we can to refer her to those doctors. And, you hear that, it was a great deal of confidence from that standpoint. But, at that point in time, my mind was already made up. Like, I was like, I'm leaving.
Yeah.
And I can remember having this conversation with Coach Andrews and his wife, God rest her soul, in the hotel room, man. And I cried, Mickey Andrews cried, his wife was crying. Like, it was just this whole point of just a sign of respect from both sides.
Yeah.
And he understood where my placement was. Like his whole thing was like, I'm not here to change your mind. I just want to tell you how proud I am of you. You grew a lot over these last 3 seasons, especially during this year when you didn't have to even be on the sideline with the guys. You could have been at home watching the game, but you was there trying to coach guys up and you're trying to learn as much as possible during this time. And it's like, man, I'm just so proud of you. And, I hate to see you leave because I know if you would have came back, I know there would have been something special going into this year, going into that 2006 year. And it was just like us sitting there having that conversation for like an hour and a half. And it was just like, man.
That's love. That's respect, man. That's I can feel in just hearing it how difficult that was.
It was difficult because like for me, like it was a love-hate relationship with Coach Andrews.
Yeah.
I had the utmost respect for the dude because he only wanted the best for me. Always set me down and talked just about life. Never really talked to me about the game unless I asked about the game.
Yeah.
And just having that, and then Clint was a big role into it. Like Clint Purvis was a big role.
Yeah.
He was a guy that, I grew a lot during that year spiritually, when I tore my ACL, because I felt like it happened because I was putting myself above everything else, Like my main priority was not God at that point in time. It was football. And, like it says in Exodus 19, Exodus 20, man, our God is a jealous God. And I felt like that's why it happened. It was
humbled you a little bit.
Humbled me in a way that I had to come back to him and refer back to him. And Clint, man, I remember Clint used to send me gospel music just to help me, like from a mental standpoint. He sent me gospel music, sent me scriptures to read. Even like during that time at the bowl game, he was just like, man, I don't want you to leave because I see where you were growing spiritually, but it's like I understand it. He was just like, from just having those conversations with those 3 guys, it was just one, it made me feel a lot better about my decision of leaving, but it also made me feel bad because they never talked about football. Well, you had some coaches talk about football, but it was more so like, hey, you come back, what have you, in the Heisman candidate race. You'll be up for the trophy award. You can play offense and defense.
Yeah, we'll let you do whatever you want.
Do whatever you want to do, but just come back. It was from a standpoint of football standpoint. It wasn't a standpoint of a lifestyle.
They wanted you as the person back.
Yeah,
and that that's something that that sticks out, right? At the end of the day, you were able to see probably in a way you hadn't seen how much they actually care about Antonio.
The person. Bump the football player, but the person. Like the whole time, like every week I used to get a phone call from Coach Don, hey, how's your rehab going? Like every time, just him calling me. He'll see me at practice, but then he'll like, hey, how are you coming? How are you coming along? Like, how's everything going? Are you okay? Like, that's the stuff that I always remember from Coach Bowden, from Clint, from Coach Andrews, from all of them.
And those listening, Clint Purvis is like the chaplain, right? Team chaplain. And he's still at Florida State. I love Clint. He is one of the nicest, most gracious human beings that I've ever. I met Clint one time, and I hadn't seen him. I saw him like a year or two later, and he remembered like my name and was like, talk to me. Like I was like, have I like met this guy more than I thought? But like Clint is like, and he gave me his number, and he's like, man, we're family. You're part of the family, and it's always. I love Clint, so he's a great dude. This concludes part 1 of our conversation with Antonio Cromartie. I'd encourage you to check out part 2, now available. If you want to know more about Secure the Bag, please check out stbprogram.com, and you can find us on Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube at STB Program.